Hello everyone, my name is Rhiannon and today I thought I would film a video that has gotten a lot of requests in a lot of my university vlogs, and that is how I got into the University of Edinburgh. So my statistics, scores, like breakdowns, predicted grades and everything like that, and including whatever extracurricular activities I did. I'm going to extend on this a little bit and make the video including all of my UK schools, of which I applied to 5. Just to start off with, I'm going into my second year at the University of Edinburgh, so this process was over a year ago now, what I did in my senior year of school. So after looking through all the different majors and stuff that I was interested in, I started to narrow down the countries that I wanted to go to and the schools that I wanted to go to in each country. For the United Kingdom, I applied to the University of Edinburgh, King's College London, the University of Bristol, the University of Bath, and Cardiff University. These were all schools that offered the degree that I wanted to study, which is Biomedical Sciences, and had programs that I was quite interested in, along with being in cities that I liked, with good cultural aspects, which had good safety aspects, which overall I felt matched my personal criteria for schools. The two main schools that I was really focusing on though were the University of Edinburgh and King's College London. I just applied to Biomedical Sciences. I didn't pick any sort of specialty. In Edinburgh, you can direct entry into one of these specialties of Biomedical Sciences, or you can just apply to General Biomedical Sciences. They're the same the first 2 years, so it doesn't matter if you direct apply or not. So I just applied to General Biomedical Sciences, and I'll be choosing my specialty later this year. So yeah, those are the 5 schools that I applied to in the UK. I was accepted, for context, into all 5 of the schools. Edinburgh was actually the last offer that I received. They were all conditional offers because I'm an international student. So I'm an international student with American and Indonesian passports, so I'm using my American passport to apply and live in the UK. But the high school I was attending was United World College of Southeast Asia in Singapore, because I was living in Singapore at the time for grade 11 and 12. I have been doing IB since grade 7, the International Baccalaureate program, and I continued doing the International Baccalaureate program for grade 11 and 12, my last 2 years of school, which is known as the IB Diploma program. So in the IB Diploma program, you have a choice of kind of selecting some of your classes at various levels, at higher levels and standard levels, as long as they fit into a wide criteria of 2 languages, a science, a humanities, and then potentially an art, which you can switch out for another humanities or another science. So before grade 11, I already knew that I wanted to be going into something with a science background. So I picked my high level classes and my standard level classes with this in mind. So I picked higher level biology, higher level chemistry, and higher level psychology. And then I picked standard level English literature, standard level mathematics, and standard level Mandarin B. So the higher levels are really important to applying to a UK school, because that is comparable to the A levels and the Scottish Highers. So because students at the A level are not required, like some other programs, to pick a wide variety of classes, they're usually focusing just on a specific set of subjects that you then specialize in. So most of my schools for biomedical sciences, I believe all of them, actually had requirements that I take biology, and many of them it was strongly recommended that I also take chemistry. I know for Edinburgh, there was also a minimum requirement for my mathematics grade as well, which could be taken at either standard level or high level. But for Edinburgh, I was required to take higher level biology, higher level chemistry, and standard level math, and have at least a score of 5 in all of them. So in the IB grading system, this is probably only useful if you actually do take IB. We're graded out of 7 in each class, out of a total of 45, with 3 additional points of those 45 that come from an extended essay and your TAK project. Biomedical sciences is obviously a medical related field, but it does encompass a lot of biology and a lot of chemistry, as you would imagine. So those 2 classes were really important, but obviously mathematics is really important to any sort of STEM degree. So if you can take math at higher level, I would recommend taking math at higher level. But a lot of the schools don't recommend that for biomed. I also did not have to take any sort of BMAT or MCAT or any sort of medical testing requirement to get into any of the schools that I applied to, and I did not have an interview process. It was just the scores that I had, my personal statement, and that was all that I had to submit. There was nothing required or any sort of like extra grades that were required for my applications. So my predicted grade, I was predicted a 42 in the IB with a 7 in higher level biology, a 7 in higher level psychology, a 6 in higher level chemistry, a 7 in standard level English literature, a 7 in standard level Mandarin B, and a 5 in standard level math. I ultimately earned a 43 in the diploma with 777 at HL and 775 at SL. Math was my only class without a 7. But my condition for Edinburgh, which was actually one of these lowest conditions of all my schools, was only a 32. And Edinburgh offers second year entry with if you have a high enough score, and if you so choose to. For second year entry, you needed a 36. I'd say generally, if you're looking to apply to a school with International Baccalaureate, the majority of the offers will fall around a 36 for Biomedical Sciences because medical degrees are usually a bit more competitive than some other types of degrees. So I would keep this in mind, but some schools do have lower conditions. It just depends. For Edinburgh, my condition at a 32 is quite low. Obviously, as I earned a 43, but this was almost assured in that sense, where I think the process was a bit harder when you're applying, so you get a lower condition, which you are sure to meet. I'm also an international student, so the conditions are very different depending if you're international, EU, Scottish, English, and so on. So I would really look into the requirements beforehand. Obviously, you do want to have as high of scores as possible before you apply to these schools. Edinburgh and King's College, London were definitely a lot harder to get into than my other 3 schools. But they're all competitive schools, so really it's important to kind of know where you're at your own personal level before you're applying to the school. Finally, for my personal statement, if you don't know what the personal statement is, it's a written essay that you submit along with your predicted scores and everything through UCAS. All the universities that you apply to will see the exact same essay, so you want to keep in mind that it's going to be something that is seen by all your different schools if you're applying to different types of degrees. But all my schools, I was just applying to Biomedical Sciences across the board, so this essay was able to be used for all 5, and I could be a bit more specific than that. I'm going to go through a little bit of a breakdown of what I said in my personal statement, which I believe really supported my application, because the UK personal statement is not necessarily a creative piece. It's going to be a piece where you're highlighting your strength and your interests in the field. So the personal statement is going to be looking at why you picked this degree that you're applying to. What have you done extracurricular-wise? What are you doing subject-wise? What is your interest in this field? Why is your interest in this field? Why are you a good candidate for this school? And why are you a good candidate to study this program? For me, I started with a little bit of an entrance paragraph, just kind of describing a bit of an introduction when I was younger into why I'm so interested in science and specifically this more medical aspect of science. And then I continue on into a bit more of my main point, which is why I want to study biomedical sciences and what I want to be looking at more in biomedical sciences. So I explained that I don't personally want to be a doctor. I knew this a few years ago, even though I'm interested in health, because I'm more interested in medical research, and that's more what biomed is, so it's a little bit less clinical aspects. So I'm kind of explaining the specific things that I find quite interesting, which for me is disease and medicine, so pharmacology itself. And then I explain my IB higher level subjects and how these have each individually helped me develop skills that I feel are useful to this specific degree itself, particularly scientific knowledge, the ability to experiment and evaluate, the application of real-life situations, and critical analysis, and then linking theories to what we study in real life. So I focused a little bit on those subjects itself. And then next, I discussed my extended essay, which the extended essay is specific to the International Baccalaureate Diploma program, but it's an 4,000 word essay where you get to focus on a research topic of your choice. So for me, mine was a world studies essay. This means it was a combined focus between biology and psychology, and I looked at gender-based differences for the efficacy of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors for the treatment of generalized depression. So I basically looked at whether gender affects antidepressant efficacy. I discussed a little bit of the key skills that I gained through doing that, and also what I ended up finding, what was my conclusion. Finally, I mentioned the different extracurriculars I did. So I did Science Society, where I submitted a little research project that looked at antifungal medications and just, discussing a little bit about that. And then I also mentioned the other extracurriculars I did, which were not science-based. I did a lot of music, a lot of dance, and community service, but I discussed how these aspects, even though they're not science-related, still gave me really good learning opportunities and skills that I can apply in my degree and apply in my further life. And then I just finished with a little bit of a closing conclusion, just where I was saying, why I hope to pursue studies in the UK, and just kind of summarizing everything that I said. I would spend a lot of time on your personal statement. That's my tip, because obviously grades are a really important aspect. I'd say they are 50-50. Don't slack on your grades. Those will be 100% what gets you to the door. But if you want to get through the door, you need a strong personal statement. Keep in mind each school you go to may be looking for different things, and if you're applying to different degrees in different schools, keep that in mind as well. Some schools, if you apply to Oxbridge, will have requirements for extra essays, but for biomed, this was all that was required of me. So you want the personal statement to be really strong and just to be a really good reflector of you as a student and you as a person. I wouldn't worry too much if you don't have a lot of science background outside of your subjects in terms of extracurriculars, because as long as you have consistent extracurriculars and you're showing that you're trying to grow in new areas and things like that, that's what they're actually looking for, that you're looking to be a well-rounded student and you're looking for personal growth and you are following things that you're interested in and you are still developing skills from that. So finally, I'm just going to go through why I ended up choosing the University of Edinburgh, because I did ultimately get offers from all the universities that I applied to in the UK. By the time the end of my senior year came around and I was deciding on the school that I actually wanted to go to, I put the University of Edinburgh as my first choice and then King's College London as my insurance choice, even though KCL actually had a higher condition for me at a 37. But I picked Edinburgh because it is a very high-ranked school in the UK. It has a very interesting degree program. Edinburgh has massive amount of research. It's a massive research school. In the Bristol group, we have so many scientific and so many medical discoveries have just come through the school. We have really great opportunities to work with various different hospitals in the city. Edinburgh also, for me, prefer a bit more than London. London is obviously a really large city in its own way. It's expensive and more dangerous and harder to get around, but Edinburgh I find is a much smaller city. Great culture to it. It's a great school. It is a large school. There's around 36,000 students, including both undergrad and postgrad. But I found from an academic point of view, there was really no argument, just the opportunities that I have. It's also a 4-year degree because Scotland is a little bit more flexible with allowing you to choose electives that are not necessarily linked to your current degree. So if I wanted to, I could have taken an art class last year, or English, etc. So it allows you to explore a lot of your different academic interests in one. But yeah, I think Edinburgh, just academically and socially and culturally, just ended up being the right fit for me, and I do, after being there for a year, agree that it was a good pick. I don't regret not going to KCL and stuff. But yeah, so let me know if you have any questions just by commenting them down below. I really hope this video was helpful, and if you are applying to Edinburgh or any other UK school in the near future, good luck, and I'll see you guys next time.